Gerard, could you explain what the 18 domains are?
The 18 domains comprise the 6 roots and 6 objects we have just seen, plus the 6 consciousnesses. We will therefore analyze the relationship between roots, objects, consciousness, and then briefly summarize the 6 consciousnesses. Primitive Buddhism expresses the idea that consciousness comes from both the root and the object. For example, we find the expression visual consciousness comes from the eye and the colors, or mental consciousness comes from the mind and the dharmas. This way of thinking has progressed to the concept of triple harmony. Triple harmony is the instantaneous and constantly renewed combination of the roots of objects and consciousnesses. What we call existence is at every moment the result of this triple encounter between an environment, the object, perceptive organs, the roots, and a perceiving subject, the consciousness. We cannot imagine existence if just one of these fundamental elements were missing or if their combination were imperfect. This is why we use the term harmony. The 6 consciousnesses are firstly visual consciousness, which is the discernment and understanding of what the eye perceives. Secondly, the auditory consciousness, this is the discernment and understanding of what the ear perceives. Thirdly, the olfactory consciousness, this is the discernment and understanding of what the sense of smell perceives. Fourthly, gustatory consciousness, this is the discernment and understanding of what the tongue perceives. Fifthly, bodily consciousness, this is the discernment and understanding of what the body perceives. Sixthly, mental consciousness, this is the discernment and understanding of what the mind perceives. Buddhism has been interested in analyzing the relationship between the mind and the realms of the 6 consciousnesses. In short, they are not separate objects. The 6 consciousnesses represent a present and immediate activity of the mind. Its consciousness of visual, auditory, etc. perceptions is only exercised in the present moment, and once this activity has been carried out, the moment belongs to the past and the result of the operation of the 6 consciousnesses has been added to the mind. There is therefore only a difference, which we call temporal, between the 6 consciousnesses and the mind. Ultimately, the process of cognition by which we become aware of what surrounds us, and which is ultimately the basis of our illusion, is as follows: an object, a sound, a smell, an image, enters our field of perception. Our appropriate root, sight, smell, and so on, perceives it. We conceptualize it by giving it a name. Then we react to it, like it or not, and, finally, we become aware of it. The nothing but consciousness current has explained the existence of a 7th consciousness. This 7th consciousness, the seat of the ego, the illusion of the self, is also supported by the mind, which at the same time as determining the 6 consciousnesses produces this extremely powerful consciousness of individualized existence, of the ego, the source of our limitations and suffering. Overcoming this attachment to the ego brings about the appeasement of the wisdom of equality, which consists of perceiving oneself and others, the inner and the outer, in equal measure. This wisdom is the fruit of the practice of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Indeed, the chapter on the benefits of Dharma masters states, if a son of good or a daughter of good receives and keeps this Lotus Sutra, if he reads it, recites it, explains it, copies it, that person will obtain 800 benefits for the eye, 1,200 benefits for the ear, 800 benefits for the nose, 1,200 benefits for the tongue, 800 benefits for the body, 1,200 benefits for the mind. He will adorn his 6 sense organs with its benefits and purify them all. This son of good, or daughter of good, with the carnal eye engendered by his or her parents, once purified, will see all the mountains, forests, rivers, and seas inside and outside the tricosmic world, all the way down to hell without intermittence and up to the gods of the summit of being. He or she will also see all the beings therein, as well as the places where they will be reborn according to the fruits and rewards conditioned by their actions. Of all this he will have full vision and knowledge. In the oral transmission of the doctrine, Nichiren Daishonin said, the Dharma masters are 5 in number, their benefit is the retribution of the purification of the 6 roots. In fact, now Nichiren and his kind who reverently recite Nam Myo Horengekyo obtain the purification of the 6 roots. Further on, he said, the benefit is Buddhahood from this body, the purification of the 6 roots. When our 6 roots are purified, then we perceive the true aspect of the dharmas, and there is fusion between subject and object, between what we perceive and what is perceived. Finally, the trinomial aggregates inputs domains refers to the whole of the phenomenal, including our illusions, those omnipresent illusions that prevent us from perceiving the real aspect of phenomena. We are in fact ordinary beings, plunged into fundamental darkness because of the evil passions fueled by the 3 poisons of anger, greed, and stupidity. It took Shakyamuni 12 years of uninterrupted mortification to free himself from this darkness and awaken from the illusion. The great master of the Tendai also engaged in practices that are extraordinary in our eyes, in order to observe his heart and discover the principle of one thought 3000, something that is absolutely impossible for us to achieve. This is why Nichiren Daishonin revealed the Daigo Honzon, about which he wrote in the treatise on the Honzon. For those who do not know one thought 3000, the Buddha showed great compassion and wrapped this pearl in these 5 ideograms, which he hung around the necks of the infantile beings of the end of the Dharma. As infantile beings, we have no wisdom and are incapable of perceiving what the Go-Honzon is. This is why, in the answer to Lord Sawyer who entered the path, Nichiren Daishonin writes, each ideogram in this sutra is a living Buddha with a marvelous awakening. However, ordinary people like us, who see things through our fleshly eyes, only see ideograms. For example, hungry spirits see the water of the Ganges as fire. Humans see it as water. Celestial beings see the water of the river as nectar. Thus, water is always the same, but can be perceived in completely different forms depending on the causal retribution. The blind do not see this sutra, beings with eyes of flesh see ideograms, the 2 vehicles see emptiness, the bodhisattvas see an infinity of doctrines, while a Buddha sees in each ideogram the venerated Sakya of the color of gold. Fortunately, we have a palliative for this blindness, this lack of wisdom, which prevents us from seeing the true aspect of the Go-Honzon, and therefore the true aspect of the dharmas. This is faith. Indeed, in the oral transmission of the doctrine, Nichiren Daishonin says, the word faith is the sharp sword that eliminates the fundamental darkness. Therefore, if we have faith that this Go-Honzon is the threefold body of the Buddha, the true aspect of things, then we perceive the true aspect of things, there is perfect fusion between the object and the subject, Kyochi Myogo, and we are Buddha from this body. With regard to this relationship between the object and the subject, the great master Myeolo used to say, even if the aspiration to Buddhahood is not sincere, if it is associated with the correct object, the benefits will nevertheless be many. However, I think this sentence is aimed at beginners. After a few years of practice, you should be able to grasp the true meaning of the practice. Quoting the passage, they desire with all their heart to see the Buddha, and for this they spare neither their body nor their life. Taken from the Jiga stanzas of the Lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Nichiren Daishonin wrote to the monk Gijobo. It is with this phrase that Nichiren manifests the world of the Buddha from his own heart. It is therefore also with this phrase that we should practice. When each daimoku that we chant is said with the sole thought of seeing the Buddha, and for that to spare neither our body nor our life, this energy of faith and this energy of practice then bring forth in us the power of the Dharma and the power of the Buddha of the Go-Honzon. There is then a fusion between the object, the Go-Honzon, and the subject, us, and we become Buddha from this body. Now, seeing the Buddha is part of the extra-mundane law of the 4 holy paths, whereas daily life is part of the mundane law of the 6 paths. Therefore, if during the practice of daimoku our one thought is turned towards our personal worries, this is no longer the original meaning of Shodai, because, even if the desire to see the Buddha is present, we are still sparing our body and our life. The world is increasingly chaotic and can explode at any moment. Aware that we who practice the correct teaching of Nichiren Daishonin are the only ones who can reverse this trend, we must at all costs and more than ever invest ourselves body and soul in the practice of Shodai without sparing either our body or our life, in the spirit of different bodies animated by the same heart as Nichiren Daishonin wishing with all his heart to see the Buddha. As believers of the Nichiren Shoshu, we have the correct object in front of us, and even if our motivations are only worldly, namely praying for health, money, a good spouse, our faith nonetheless takes us into the extra-worldly of Buddhahood, as Miao Lo used to say. This is not, however, in my opinion, enough to make shakubuku. Knowing how to explain why Nichiren Shoshu is the only school to teach reality and the practice to awaken to it is paramount in the perspective of the vast propagation.